Good evening, everyone. If I could ask you to take a seat, we'll get the program underway. Good evening, everyone. This is a night I always look forward to, one of my favorite nights of the year. My name's Joe Sunderman, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us at Cintas Center tonight for the 2020 Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. It's my pleasure to be here as we induct 5 new members into Xavier's Hall of Fame. It's important to mention that the P. Douglas O'Keefe Athletic Hall of Fame display on the Cintas Center West Concourse recognizes the 5 individuals we are here to honor tonight, as well as some great achievements of many athletes and teams over the years. Tom Iser, Xavier's Associate AD for Communications, is chair of the Hall of Fame Committee and caretaker of the exhibit, and has done a tremendous job of adding new items that commemorate significant achievements at moments throughout Xavier's athletic history. I encourage you to visit the O'Keefe Hall of Fame if you get a chance. Maybe you can even do that tonight. I'd like to welcome Xavier Hall of Fame member, Sister Roseanne Fleming, to provide tonight's invocation. Sister Roseanne has helped to shape so many of these student athletes' lives and works tirelessly to get them ready for life after collegiate sports. Ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Fame member, Sister Roseanne Fleming.
Let us place ourselves in the presence of God. Good and loving God, we gather this evening in your presence to honor the 5 inductees into Xavier's Hall of Fame. We celebrate the talents of Justin Doellman, Michael Hawkins, Nick Hagglund, Scott Gordon, and Katie Pleiman. We recall the words of St. Paul in his letter to the Corinthians, where he wrote, "By the grace of God, I am what I am, and his grace in me has not been in vain." We thank you, O Lord, for the remarkable gifts that you have given to the inductees. As we contemplate their achievements, help us, O Lord, to learn from them, to live our lives as they have lived theirs, with a vision of the extraordinary, an endurance that comes only with faith in your grace, and a dream of perfection, which has brought them to this evening's induction. And we ask you, Lord, to grant your blessing on this food we are about to share, and on all those who prepared it for us. This we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
All right, thank you, sister. And ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy your dinner. Immediately after dinner, we'll begin tonight's induction ceremony. We'd like to get the program underway again if we could. Hope everybody enjoyed their dinner. Xavier's Vice President for Administration and Director of Athletics, Greg Christopher, will welcome you to tonight's induction ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Greg Christopher.
Thanks, Joe. Welcome, everyone. Glad to have you this evening. First of all, a thank you to Joe. It's nice having a Hall of Fame MC to go with everything. So, actually, between Joe as the MC and Sister Roseanne up here to give the invocation, and the 5 inductees, I think I'm the only non-Hall of Famer that you have to listen to tonight, which means I'll be brief. So. One other thank you. A lot of work goes into this event and putting it all together and the effort behind it. Ryan Toole and Seth Breitenstein from All for One Fund, thank you for all that you did. The person that really gets a round of applause is Tom Iser. Tom is the one that orchestrates all things Hall of Fame. So if you would, please give Tom a round of applause. I know it's a labor of love for Tom, and he does a great job with the committee. This is a fun night. Congratulations, Justin, Mike, Katie. Who else? Nick's right here, and then Scott's over here. So this is always, again, a fun night to listen to the stories and the memories. I always like to just open it up with some context to give you some context to what's going on tonight as far as the numbers, because I think the numbers tell a story in their own right. With the inductees tonight, we're at 143 inductees in the Xavier Athletics Hall of Fame. Now, again, the context is important because we've had 4,000 former athletes over the years. So that tells you this group is really the best of the best, and they should be very proud for what they've done. I think tonight also is a bit of a first. I think it is. Tom should be the ruler on this. This is the first time that we've had an athlete inducted who competed with the Big East when Xavier joined the Big East. So we've got all 3 conferences represented tonight, and you think of the great arc that Xavier has from the MCC to the Atlantic 10 and now the Big East. It's kind of fun to have the Big East represented tonight. But collectively, this group is really impressive. Not only were they great, by the time they got to be upperclassmen, 4 of the 5 here tonight were freshmen of the year in the league or on all freshman teams. There are 3 academic All-Americans, so it's a smart group, 6 times academic All-Conference. This group played in 8 NCAA tournaments representing Xavier, including an Elite 8, 11 All-Conference awards, including a Player of the Year, 2 All-Americans, 4 of the 5 played professionally. We had 1 represent the United States on Team USA, Mike, and we had a veteran, Scott. Thank you for your service. Now, the numbers are incredibly impressive, and they tell this story of excellence, but I think what we're really here for tonight is to hear stories be told, and that's really what this is about. I'm guessing it gets to the heart of the connection and the relationships that these former athletes have with teammates, coaches, and families, and that's really what we're here for. So let's get started. On behalf of everyone at Xavier University, congratulations again on being inducted to the Hall of Fame, and more than anything, thank you for what you did for the university. Let's get on with it.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
Thank you. Greg, thank you very much. Before we begin tonight's program, I'd like to recognize several special guests that we have in attendance. First, I'd like to welcome a couple of Xavier head coaches. From men's soccer, Andy Fleming. Andy, stand up. From men and women's tennis, Doug Matthews. Thank you, Doug. It is now my privilege to introduce the current Hall of Fame members in attendance. When I say your name, I ask that you stand and remain standing. Please hold all applause until I finish reading the list. Jim Booth, Sister Roseanne Fleming, Matt Garrigan, Jim Gruber, Alan Joseph, Dr. John Kusha, Marla Phillips, Judy Smith, Beth Osterday Strange, and Doug Taggy. I'd also like to thank members of this year's Hall of Fame Selection Committee for their time and dedication to the process in helping us select this impressive class. And thank you for being here tonight. Congratulations to those of you who are already in the Hall of Fame, and a special congratulations to this year's inductees and their families for a well-deserved honor. Thank you for sharing your God-given talents with Xavier University. Tonight's induction will give you more insight to our inductees, but not just on the playing field. We will learn about each individual as a person and what he or she has been able to accomplish, not only during their time at Xavier, but after as well. In your program, you can find more information as to our inductees' accomplishments, but during tonight's ceremony, we will reflect and remember some of those moments along with many friends and family. Now about our inductees. Justin Doellman. What a great basketball player. He was a 4-year standout on the Xavier men's basketball team, participating on 3 NCAA tournament teams, including as a freshman starter for Xavier's first ever Elite 8 team in 2004. Dolman started 123 games out of a possible 132 during his career. He was Xavier's leading rebounder and shot blocker for each of his final 3 seasons, ranks 3rd in Xavier history for block shots, 20th in rebounding, and 21st in scoring with 1,402 career points. As a senior, he led Xavier in scoring at 13.7 points per game and scored a career-high 29 against Rhode Island. After Xavier, Dolman played 12 seasons professionally, including being named MVP of the Spanish League in the Euro Cup Championship in 2014. Scott Gordon. Scott enjoyed a standout career as a Musketeer baseball player, arguably one of the most versatile talents, playing as a pitcher, first baseman, outfielder, and designated hitter. Got a lot done. That's awesome. Gordon compiled a 327 career batting average in 172 career games. As an underclassman, he was the stopper out of the bullpen, setting a then-school record of 17 saves his first 3 seasons, including a single-season record of 8 as a freshman. His senior season, he started 11 times and recorded 10 complete games on his way to a team-best 3.17 ERA. That same season, he batted .384, hit 48 walks, and 60 RBIs, earning first-team All-MCC honors in addition to being named third-team Academic All-American. Gordon was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays in the 1989 MLB draft and went on to serve in the United States Marine Corps. Awesome. Nick Hagelin. Nick, a native of Cincinnati, enjoyed the most decorated career in Xavier soccer history. Hagelin was part of 31 shutouts as the leader of the Xavier defense over his 4-year career. During that time, Xavier made their first ever NCAA tournament appearances in 2010, 2011, and 2012, including the program's first NCAA win over Kentucky in 2012. Individually, he earned Conference Defensive Player of the Year honors in the A-10 in 2012 and in the Big East in 2013. Hagelin was also recognized nationally, earning All-American second-team honors from the National Soccer Coaches Association of America. Hagelin holds the distinction of being the highest drafted Xavier player ever in the MLS Super Draft, taken 10th overall by Toronto in 2014 and won the MLS Cup in 2017. He currently plays for his hometown team, by the way, my hometown team, FC Cincinnati. Michael Hawkins, another great basketball player. Michael helped guide Xavier to 2 NCAA tournaments and 1 NIT quarterfinal during his 4-year career for the Musketeers. Hawkins was named to the 1991-92 MCC all-newcomer team as a freshman. During his career, he played 3 positions before moving to point guard during his senior year. That year, he became a standout under first-year head coach, the late Skip Prosser. He led Xavier with 5.8 assists per game, including a career-high 13 at Cleveland State. and was second in scoring at 14.1 points per game. For his career, he scored 1,029 points and led Xavier in assists in 3 seasons and still ranks in Xavier's all-time top 10 at number 9 with 448 career assists. Hawkins went on to play 11 years professionally, including 4 seasons in the NBA, and also represented Team USA twice. Now lastly, Katie Pleiman Grabovski. Katie, a 2013 Xavier University graduate, enjoyed one of the greatest 4-year careers in tennis program history. Pleiman played in the number 1 single spot all 4 years, was a 4-time all-conference selection, and won 80 matches, good for a winning percentage of .755, which ranked 6th best all-time upon graduation. She was the Atlantic 10 Rookie of the Year as a freshman in 2010 and earned first-team honors in each of her 4 seasons. She was the first Musketeer to compete at the All-American Tennis Championship and became the first Xavier female athlete to finish the season ranked by the Intercollegiate Tennis Association. You know, I always enjoy reading those descriptions of those careers. They're always remarkable, and the group of this 5, just amazing as any other group we've had. And I always tell you, but it's just a real joy to be standing up here being involved in this at all. At this time, I invite Katie, Justin Scott, Nick, and Michael to join me on stage, along with Greg Christopher. Come on up. Assigned your seats, believe it or not. Anywhere's fine. Perfect. That's good. All right, looks like we're all set. The 5 inductees represented Xavier in different ways, but always according to the motto of our mission-driven athletic program, and I quote, "To compete at the highest level possible with pride and passion towards a higher goal and for a higher purpose. To represent that principle in both athletics and academics and continue to focus on the motto of the Musketeers, all for one and one for all." Now, to give you an idea how we're going to proceed, our inductees have each chosen a person who has been influential in their career or in their life. Those people will introduce and induct them into the Hall of Fame tonight. So let's get started with the induction ceremony. Our first inductee tonight will be Katie Pleiman Grabovski. Her inductors tonight are her older sister, Katie Pleiman Wooten, who played with her here at Xavier, and her younger sister, Kelly Pleiman, who is currently playing tennis at Dayton. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Katie and Kelly.
Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to see so many people here. And we just wanted to start off by first congratulating all of the inductees tonight and all of your families on truly such an extraordinary accomplishment. So thank you all. Like he said, my name is Katie Pleiman Wooten. This is my sister, Kelly Pleiman. And we are so thrilled and honored to be here tonight to introduce our sister, Katie Pleiman Grabovski, for her induction into the Xavier University Athletic Hall of Fame. This university means so much to our family. Katie's not just my sister. As a fellow Xavier University tennis player and a graduate of the class of 2011, Katie was also my teammate, and she was my doubles partner. I don't think most sisters get to say that they had the opportunity to play on the court next to their sister in a high school state finals match, as well as a conference championship match, and those are memories that I'll always cherish. After high school, Katie had her pick of opportunities for college scholarships, and I was so thrilled when she decided to sign her letter of intent to play here at Xavier, because I knew that getting a chance to play tennis with my sister would be really special, and it lived up to the hype. College with Katie was fun. I feel really lucky that I get to know Katie in all aspects of her life. I get to know Katie as a competitor, as a businesswoman, as a sister, a daughter, a wife, a friend, and now the godmother of my daughter. And if there's one word to describe how Katie approaches all of the roles in her life, it's with love. Katie is a phenomenal tennis player, and that's because she loves the game. She loves everything about the game of tennis. She loves to compete. She loves to win. She loves to prove people wrong when they think she's too young, too small, or too injured to be great. She loves everything about the game of tennis. And it's this love and Katie's drive for excellence as a person that fueled her career at Xavier. 4 of the winningest seasons in Xavier tennis history, All-American honors, even in a year she had to serve underhanded because she tore her labrum. Katie brought grit to every single thing she did. Her tennis record and her 3.9 GPA are impressive in and of themselves, but even more so when you have to think about all of the extra hours that Katie had to spend in physical therapy and sitting in an ice bath. And it's all of those extra hours going the extra mile and pushing herself to do whatever it takes that makes Katie a true champion at everything she does.
So Katie's love for the game definitely fueled her competitive spirit. When Christy says that Katie loves to win, not only does she love to win, but she hates to lose even more. So even when I was 5 years old with my pop-up tent and my Play-Doh, I knew not to mess with Katie when she was in the zone. So anyone who's watched Katie play tennis probably knows this is the moment where she puts her tongue in her mouth and she starts to stare you down until you give her an inside-out forehand. If you talk to my dad, I'm sure he'd like to take some credit for Katie's competitive spirit. He loves to tell the story of when they would go to their Thanksgiving tournaments, and he would only give her chocolate pie if she won. So, when Katie went to college, she only got even better. I remember being amazed watching her as she would just make difficult shots look easy, beat the top players with injuries that would keep the normal person out of the game. She was just so fun to watch. And then even her tennis IQ was better than the average, obviously. I have a stack of index cards on my desk that Katie actually used to keep in her high school locker. And one of the quotes says, "What is one of the most single important qualities of a champion?" And it's the desire and strength to win even when you aren't playing your best. And obviously Katie played her best, but her drive and her determination allowed her to find ways to win in matches that some people might not have expected her to win. Those qualities not only make Katie a great tennis player, but also a great exec, a sister, and a best friend. And the joy that she has brought to our family and to everyone else around us definitely surpasses any statistic that she has accomplished in her tennis career. So, Katie, we're very proud of you.
We have a couple more things to say. We're almost done. I'm sorry. Of course, Kelly, we're proud of you as your sisters, but one thing that I love about being part of the Xavier Tennis program is that we're a family here at Xavier Tennis, too. And on behalf of the Xavier Tennis family, we are truly proud of you, Katie. Every day you pushed us to be our best. You showed us love, humor, grit, work ethic. And I can confidently stand up here and tell everyone today that today the Xavier University women's tennis program is better because Katie Pleiman Grabovski played here. And I can confidently tell you all that our family is better because Katie is in it. And so, Katie, we are so proud of you. You inspire us every day. Sorry. It's been a privilege to watch your incredible tennis career and your incredible life. Congratulations on your induction into the Xavier University Athletic Hall of Fame. I couldn't be prouder that your accomplishments will be forever memorialized in the hallways here that have meant so much to me and you. And that's it.
Wow, thank you. My sisters are pretty incredible, aren't they? I'm very honored to be here tonight. When Greg Christopher first called and said you're going to be a member of the Hall of Fame, I was shocked. And then I found out that I was going to be a member of the Hall of Fame with 4 of these incredible professional athletes, and I was even more shocked and humbled and very grateful. So
Thank you, Xavier University, for this great honor. It's something that I'm very grateful and thankful for. When I am looking around the room and I'm looking at why am I here and how I got here, there's so many amazing, incredible people that got me to where I am here today. And a lot of them are sitting here in the front row, and my coaches as well. I was blessed to be born into an incredible family, but I'm even more blessed as well when I decided to come to Xavier and have another second family here. So both my family and Xavier have met so many incredible people. My parents, Mike and Reg Pleiman, are here tonight, and they're the best role models. We grew up around the house. We have a lot of sayings around the house, a lot of different quotes, as you heard already. But one of the quotes that we say is, Pleimans don't quit. And what this means to us is that life isn't always easy, and things aren't always going to go according to plan. But you have to never give up, and you have to stay tough and stay positive. And you have to make a lot of sacrifices. And my parents made a ton of sacrifices for me to get me here today. My mom was the one that would wake up 5 in the morning before school and take us to practice. She would pick us up after school. She would always bring the snacks. She'd always make sure that we were carb loaded the night before with Olive Garden. And she never complained, and she always did it with a smile on her face. And she's very loyal. But something else about my mom is that she is also a competitor. I remember in a couple matches where I'd have to tell my mom, and Coach Toph maybe once or twice, if I got overruled by a line judge that we didn't necessarily agree with the call, I'd have to, settle them down a little bit and say it's okay. But my mom also battled breast cancer while I was here at Xavier, and she overcame it and barely missed a single match of mine. So very grateful for my mom and for being here today. And my family jokes where I get my athleticism from. My dad tries to take the credit for it, but I'll tell you up here, it's from my mom, so sorry, Dad. My dad traveled with us a lot. Tennis is an interesting sport growing up. It's not a big team sport until you get to really high school and college. So you travel a lot and compete a lot by yourselves, or if you're lucky enough with your sisters. And my dad had a lot of great memories on the road. You've already heard one of them, so thanks for taking that away from me in my speech, Kelly. We would travel a lot. Thanksgiving, we had a tournament. My mom would always bake my favorite chocolate pie. My dad would joke, I can only get it if I won. We also, looking back now, joke. So my dad grew up in the John McEnroe era. For those of you that don't know John McEnroe, players in the 70s and 80s, a lot of talk, trashing, came to the net a lot, was a big volleyer. My dad likes to say that, he taught us the game of tennis, but I think he was really just preparing us for mental toughness, because the better that we got, the more trash talking happened. So I think that's how my sisters and I were able to kind of zone out a little bit, as we had a lot of practice from my dad growing up. So they're both very proud of us. I still get picture text messages from when we were playing in college and traveling together, and text from my dad on Friday, TGIF, it's Miller time. So he's very proud of us, but I'm also very proud and thankful for my parents, for their unconditional love and support. I wouldn't be here without them. So when it was time to look at colleges, Xavier really stood out to me because of the great family feeling, and that's not only because my sister Christy played here, but she is a big reason why I am here as well. It's incredible to be able to play a college sport with one of your siblings, and it's even more cool to say that you were doubles partners in college. She was my favorite teammate. She had so much grit, and I'm really thankful for her and her family, Taylor and little Claire, that's trying to sleep outside, for traveling in this afternoon from Charleston. So thank you for being here today. And also to my younger sister, Kelly, thank you for forcing me out of retirement to play with you, even though I am sore for a week and have to ice my shoulder. Hopefully Dad's trash talking wore off on me a little bit, so when I can come home, that's some chance that I can win some points against you. But it's really fun to watch you compete and grow up and develop your own lifelong friendships with your teammates at Dayton.
There are a lot of other people I have to thank here today. I have my coaches here, Coach Toth and Coach Matthews from Xavier. So Coach Toth was my head coach all 4 years while I was here, and I also had the honor of playing under Coach Matthews as the assistant coach for 3 of my 4 years here. Toth is such a great person. I'm so fortunate to be able to play for him. When we traveled and when we had our great spring break trips, he always offered up to go to church with him on the weekends. His parents would always come to our matches. His wife taught us off-season yoga classes. I mean, he was really somebody that completed you as a whole person and not just as an athlete. And there's a reason why we see him every year, multiple times a year at all of our friends' weddings and events, is because he really made Xavier a family for us, involving his own family, and it was just a wonderful experience to play for him. So thank you for coming back here tonight to be here. And Coach Matthews, you are so competitive. I loved playing under you for 3 years. I was a little intimidated at first, really tall guy, arguably one of the best male tennis players Xavier has ever had. But he understands the game more than anybody. And it's really going to be exciting to see the future of Xavier tennis and how it continues to evolve and grow under you. I also have my high school tennis coach here, Dan Kronagi, who's a former Hall of Fame tennis player himself at Ball State. So thank you for being here. You really elevated my game. A lot of morning practices. I don't know how I got slotted that early, but we'll talk about that later. But really a Cincinnati man just based on muscle memory and repetition. So really elevated my game and made me put in the hours to be the best that I could. I'd also like to thank all the amazing people that are here today along my journey at Xavier. I actually met my husband of 1.5 years through one of my Xavier tennis teammates that played on the male tennis team, Phil Diaz. He hosts a tennis fundraiser every summer in Columbus. Chris played in the buddy division, but we met at a fundraiser a couple years ago, and I'm very grateful that Xavier has allowed me to meet such incredible people and help me grow my own family. I'd also like to thank my teammates. I had the most amazing teammates here today. Andrea Wolf-Rubker's here tonight. We started out as competitors in high school, became teammates, and now we're lifelong best friends. You make everyone around you just a better person, and I'm very grateful that we have been able to share some great memories and experiences, and I'm looking forward to continuing to see your growing family. And to all my trainers, it sounds like I had a lot of injuries over the years. I don't know, that was a theme in the beginning. So for keeping me whole and letting me continue to compete and play a sport I so loved. To all the professors and all the mentors that have really just impacted my experience to be such a positive one here. So looking back on my career at Xavier, obviously you remember some of the shots and some of the matches, but you really remember a lot of the small things and a lot of the connections and the people that you make, the connections you make and the people that you meet. Competing and playing tennis here at Xavier really allowed me to continue the values that my parents instilled in us at a young age. It's be on time, don't quit, work hard, and treat other people the way you want to be treated. So my family and friends, we all joke, we say, coming along the tennis journey and knowing what we've been through, would we have our kids play this sport? And I would say, yes, absolutely. So thank you for this day. I appreciate it. I'm very honored and humbled to be here. And congratulations to the rest of the class. Thank you.
Congratulations, Katie. Our next inductee will be Nick Hagelin. His inductor is Andy Fleming, Xavier men's soccer head coach. Please give Andy a warm welcome.
I want to start by, I'm not going to talk about the inductees anymore. I'm going to talk about the team behind the inductees. There's teammates and then there's teams. And I think particularly when you get to the professional level, there's a group of people that really are a team behind the individual. And I want to commend and welcome each of the teammates, not just on the actual team, but the team members behind the individuals tonight. And I'll start by singling out Team Hagglund, sitting right in front of me here. All here tonight, particularly Nick's wife, Mary. A lot of you don't know. Mary grew up across the street from Nick and has known him since they were 2 years old. So Mary's been along with the journey really from day one, and want to welcome and thank Team Hagglund. I also want to make a quick note before we move along here. When we went into the Atlantic 10 tournament my first year as a head coach, we would go, and some of you remember, you would go to play in South Philly against LaSalle. You would go to the Bronx to play Fordham. You would go to St. Joe's and other places. And it was always a little unnerving and a little uneasy. In the first away game we had Nick's freshman year, this rowdy, overserved group of people from Staten Island, which turns out to be Sue's extended family, was at our first away game. And we had immediate street credibility in Philadelphia and New York and some muscle, and I think it probably contributed to some of our success, so please send them my regards. I just finished my 10th year as the head coach at Xavier, and with the decade being finished, I think there's been a lot of retrospect. I think a lot of people have come full circle in a number of areas. And I've certainly done that with recruiting. I've done that with our program. And fortunately, last week I did it with Nick. I interviewed for this job in 2009 on December 13th. I wore this tie. I kept the tie when I got the job for sentimental sake, and this is the first time I've worn it since I interviewed for the job. The job was called the death sentence. The program had nothing to speak of. They had 5 wins in the previous 2 years. They'd come in last place in the Atlantic 10 the 2 years before, and nobody really wanted the job, I don't think. A week later, I got offered the job, and I took it against some people's wishes. And the first thing I did as I sat down, I said, all right, what is a Xavier team going to look like? What is a Xavier player going to look like? What will a Xavier family look like? And I think it's important for a team to embody the university it represents. I think it has to have the same values, the same mission, the same ideals. And we did that. And what we really wanted to do is take a page from Gonzaga basketball, which has a sign in their locker room that says, Gonzaga players go to class, they dress well, they have manners, but at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, they will punch you in the face and rip your head off. A little extreme. We're more on the J. Crew side and making sure our faith is important, 3.5 GPA, make sure you're a gentleman, holding doors, pulling out chairs, things of that nature. But that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to mirror Xavier, and I had to define what a Xavier player was and a Xavier family was. A week later, unbeknownst to me, I went to Florida to Disney Wide World of Sports. I pulled out a chair and I watched Nick play for the first time, and I met his parents after the game and talked to them briefly. And I didn't really know, but that night it had taken me all of 1 week to find what a Xavier player was. And that Xavier player changed our program, which in turn changed the trajectory of my career and really changed my life in a lot of regard. So that's kind of the full circle here. And, you know, the thing we try to do is develop husbands, fathers, and professionals. And that's the goal I had when I got here. And I'll talk a little bit about the end, how the full circle thing has come along. And Nick is every one of those things today. I'll quickly stick handle through his career. I won't talk about all the accolades. Joe kind of hit that. I'd like to talk more about his human being highlights. But, you know, his freshman year, we went from last place to first. We won the Atlantic 10. It was the #1 turnaround in the nation. And then his sophomore year, we went back to back, which Nick will see me laughing a little bit. I still can't believe it happened. His junior year, we started the season off with a 14-game unbeaten streak. We were #9 in the country. And Soccer America did a big spread, and there were 2 teams who were still unbeaten. It was us and Maryland. And Maryland had won 2 of the last 4 national championships. And it said, who will be the last unbeaten to fall, Xavier or Maryland? And I remember looking at that in my office for about a half an hour one day and just laughing. Like, I couldn't believe that's where we were. And the biggest piece of that was Nick, and that's the year he became an All-American Player of the Year, and so on and so forth. After he graduated, or after he finished his career, the next highlight I vividly remember was in Philadelphia, the MLS draft, the Major League Soccer draft. And what they do is they assemble a group of players, their parents and their agents, in the lobby of the hotel, and this one was in Philadelphia, and they do a procession through the hotel into the draft itself. And certain people sit in the front of the draft, and the area is roped off. And I remember walking in the procession and looking to my right, looking to my left, and being like, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, and then it's me and Nick. And it was only my 4th year here as a head coach, and if you remember where we started, I couldn't believe that that's the company we had. And I really started to think, geez, maybe something big was going to happen today. And then with the 10th pick of the first round, Don Garber, the commissioner of Major League Soccer, said, Toronto FC selects from Xav, and he said Xav, and I stood up and said, yes! And I wasn't even sure if he was going to say Xavier, but if you hear Xav enough, you know he's going to say Xavier, and thank God he said Xavier. And Nick was a top 10 pick. That was really the last time he was really a part of me or part of the program. We cut the cord, and then he went and became a professional. And I think it's funny to know when Nick first became a professional, he didn't love it. He said, Coach, the guys don't hang out together. They're kind of selfish. It's kind of a business, and guys compete for positions, and there's not the camaraderie, and it's just so different from college, and I'm going to have to get used to this. And I thought, in a way, that kind of spoke a little bit about who Nick was and what sport meant to him. You know, he scored a goal in the Eastern Conference Final on ESPN to put Toronto in the final, and then they won the final, and he had a MLS championship. That was a big moment. I do remember another moment this past summer where the U.S. national team played a game at the University of Cincinnati in their stadium. I went to the practice, and after the practice, I'm standing there with my son and Michael Bradley, arguably the most recognizable player in the history of the national team, walked up to me and goes, man, we miss him. Man, do we miss him. And he turned around and walked away. And I didn't know. Michael Bradley knew who I was. I was floored that he talked to me. My son was like punching me. But I thought it said a lot about Nick, and that was very tough to get a compliment from a guy like Michael Bradley. He's kind of known for that. So those are a couple of little things that stick out. I'll finish with probably the most prominent memory I have of Nick, and it has nothing to do with soccer, but at the end of his rookie year, it was December, it was a Friday, it was 2014, and I came home from work, and I walked into the kitchen, and my son was 4 at the time, and I said, hey, where's Braden? And she goes, go out back. And Nick had just gotten home. He hadn't been home for 9 months. He had just finished his first year as a professional. He was hot to trot. He was feeling it. He was in his hometown. And the first place he chose to go to was to my house to see, not me, but my son. And I go in the backyard, and the big kid that he is rolling around the ground playing, grab ass with my son in the backyard. That's Nick. That's our program. That's really the 2020 adult version of what I envisioned in 2010. And I think we all know that's Xavier. He's a man for others. He's a person for others. He's well-rounded. I'll close by saying it's been 10 years that I've been at the helm. It's been 10 years where I've recruited, shaped a team, kind of changed the vision of what I thought I wanted and didn't want. And it was really neat this past week to kind of go back to the original plan and kind of the original guy. It's come full circle. I know I've said that a lot, but this is the original Xavier soccer player in my eyes. And let's go back to the plan. He's a great husband. He's a father now. He's professional. He's not a professional soccer player. He's professional as a verb at being a soccer player. And I always say professional as a verb, and I think he's really embodied that through the highs and lows of being a professional. And then the last thing I always talk about, he's a builder. He was a builder building our program, and now I think it's only fitting that he's in his hometown with FC Cincinnati. In many ways, the face of the program to a lot of people with a great mission you guys have to build, and I think he's the right guy for it. And I think it's poetic justice, and I think it's really a great little story, and I think it's going to continue to build great things like he has in the past. So with that, I'd like you to join me in welcoming the next bust on the Mount Rushmore of Xavier Soccer, class of 2020, Nick Hagglund.
Wow, Andy, thank you. Really appreciate your kind words, and it means the world to me. First off, I want to thank God. I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because I wouldn't be here for the many blessings in my life and the gifts that you have bestowed upon me. And so, first of all, I want to thank God. So I'm going to take you down a little bit down memory lane of my first ever college match. I was the lone starting forward. I'm being inducted as a defender. My job was not to score goals. My job was to head the ball, defend the center backs, and anytime our playmaker had the ball, just run. At the end of the game, we tied 0-0. We had 3 shots on goal, and 0 were mine. I was offsides 13 times, and I was laying on the ground with a double calf cramp. Never in my life thinking I would be standing on the stage today. And so that's just a story to tell you that I stand here today not on my own merit, and the things that I have accomplished are not on my own. I stand here on the shoulder of my teammates, my coaches, my university, my family, and my friends. So how do I go from that to standing here? Well, it all started at home. The 3 mottos that were in the Hagelin household were work hard, have fun, and do the right thing, always, no matter what. And those things were never explicitly said, but they were inherently instilled in us in everything that we did. Mom and Dad, I don't have enough words up here to tell you how thankful I am for everything you've done for Jenna and I. You have equipped us for every challenge that I've ever faced and every challenge that I'm going to face. And you've humbly laid down everything in your life so that we could achieve our dreams and dream big. And when I say laid down, I mean like that includes the house, because you let us play soccer and sports in the house. At least every piece of furniture or anything they had was super glued at least once. And I just really want to thank you for allowing me to be the wacky, wild, extroverted, energetic kid when it could have been way easier to try to bridle my craziness and my wildness. You let me be me, and I think I stand here today because of that. And I hope and pray that I can give the same life to Eloise that you gave me and Jenna. And so I thank you, and I love you guys so much. It's not always that your own role model humbly puts you in your place in everything you do until you're 18, even playing video games. But here I stand today, Jenna, because of you, I had the privilege of watching you gracefully glide through life, conquering every challenge, every obstacle right in front of me. 4.0 GPA, changing from your favorite sport being soccer to volleyball, going all state, going to play for a top 10 volleyball team, going and playing overseas, representing your country. It made it all too easy for me to stand up here today, because all I had to do is watch you, take notes, and just try and keep my head above water and follow you. Or otherwise I'd just be forgotten. And so when I became a professional, being a role model was super important to me, because I got to watch my role model in front of me every day, and I saw the power that it has in having a role model so close to you. And so I thank you for everything that you are, for being you, and I thank you to the parents for raising her the way she is. So now I want to thank Xavier University. I truly have no idea where I would be if I had chosen another school. As Andy said, I didn't choose Xavier because it was the best soccer program in the nation. We were actually pretty bad. But I chose Xavier because they didn't want me only for my athletic ability. They wanted me for who I was, what my character was, and what kind of leader I was. And that reflects on the type of university this is. And so much that I model my life behind what it means to be a Xavier player, as Andy says. At the beginning of preseason or every year, we get a binder that kind of lays out the description of what a Xavier player is. So I'm going to list a couple things. Xavier players hold themselves to high standards on and off the pitch. You know, J. Crew, not smashing people's heads. We would outwork. We would outcare in terms of the details and for each other. We would train like we were the number 2, always having a chip on our shoulder regardless of the accolades. We always talked about every day about earning your brick. You can't build something great in one day, but you can earn a brick, and you can put down a brick in one day, and every opportunity was an opportunity to build something great. We never cut corners. We never pointed the finger. We pointed the thumb in self-reflection of what we could do better for the team. And no one was ever bigger than the team. The team was the star of the team, and our team was not just a team, it was a family. We worked together, we suffered together, we lost together, we won together. I got to be on the forefront of changing culture of a locker room and watch it build success. And today I stand to you as a Xavier player. I was a Xavier player while I was in Toronto's locker room. I was a Xavier player in FC Cincinnati's locker room. And I'll be a Xavier player wherever and whatever I'm doing next. I want to thank Andy Fleming, Chris Burch, Michael Biggs, Almore Wiki, Jamie Starr, and all the other assistant coaches for creating this culture and setting us up for success. I could tell stories for days about Andy's motivational tactics, like bringing raw meat onto the field, 5 a.m. practices being crushed with flying yoga balls, driving his car onto the field, or how he would pay back the university a day wage of his salary if we ever had 2 bad practices in a row. And those are stories, but there's 2 stories specifically of Andy that I hold close to home. My first is after my sophomore fall season. He sat me down in his office and he said, "Nick, I really think you should think about doing this for a living possibly." I was stunned right there. I was like, I've never thought of that. I just thought about Xavier and what's going to happen the next day. And so I left that day determined to be a professional soccer player. I wanted to be Sergio Ramos. I wanted to be John Terry. I wanted to be Rio Ferdinand. All the people that I watched on the weekends. And after winter break, I came back and I proceeded to have the worst spring season of my entire life. I couldn't complete 2 passes. It was awful. Andy brings me back into the office after the spring season, and he says, "Nick, forget about everything I told you about being a pro soccer player." And my jaw dropped a little bit. And then he said, "Just be Nick, and you're going to be fine." And that has never left me. I was always a good player, but I was never the best. I wasn't great in high school. I never made an ODB team. And I always felt like I was chasing other people, comparing myself against what the next level was. And Andy that day gave me the permission to play freely and be myself. And I realized that there's only one Nick Hagelin, and I can only make that version of Nick Hagelin the best one. And now the next moment is probably the more important moment for sure. It was the day after Andy's daughter was born, Devin, and he came into the locker room with all the boys around. We had a meeting, which was unusual, and there were tears running down his face. And he told us the news that Devin had Down syndrome, and we were all shocked. And after a few silent moments, he quickly picked his head up, and he said, "I'm the man for this. I'm the man for this." And I've held that moment forever. Whatever is going on in my life, I think of that moment, and I think, I'm the man for this. Whatever's going on, whatever life's cards have to come my way, I'm the man for this. And so, Andy, I appreciate everything you are as a coach, as a man, as a husband, as a father, for what you've done for this program and for myself. I'd also like to thank Chris Burch. He's not here tonight, but if I ever had to pick a person to be locked in a room with a bear with, I'm picking Burchy. This man he has that bulldog mentality, that never give up mentality, that warrior spirit, and that was the spirit that embodied our team for 4 years. He did a lot of the dirty work behind the scenes, and he just cared so much, and the way he talked to you, he wanted you to know that not to waste a moment, that this team was special, and everyone felt that, and so I thank Coach Burch for everything he's done. And to my teammates, especially my graduating class, I literally wouldn't be standing here without any of you. Soccer's a game of 11 people. It takes everyone and everything to make things successful, and we laid every last drop of sweat on the field, and I cherish every moment that we had on the field and off the field, and for the memories still to come. And last but not least, I would like to thank my wife, Mary. We are high school sweethearts. We grew up across the street from each other. We've known each other since we were 6, not 2. It's all right. And when she heard about me being inducted into the Hall of Fame, she read the list of accolades and said to me, she's like, "What? You won all those awards in college?" I had no idea you did that. And that is why I love Mary so much. Mary cares not about awards I win or how well I do at anything. She cares about who I am and the man I'm becoming, and me staying true to myself. Actually, the other night, she says, "I don't care if you score 13 goals on your own team. I still love you." My hope and prayer for everyone is that they find someone like Mary in their life that can look past the things that we do in our life and encourage and love us for who we are. So I just want to thank the university and everyone here for inducting me, and all the inductees. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations, Nick. These nights are always great. Next will be Justin Doellman. His inductor tonight is lifelong friend, Joe Kimmener. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joe. Come on up, Joe.
Good evening. I wanted to start out tonight by thanking Justin for including me in this special occasion. I'm honored that you selected me to introduce you. This is the second time Justin asked me to speak on his behalf. The first was at his wedding to his beautiful wife, Meredith, 14 years ago as his best man. I had never given a toast before, so in preparation, I asked Justin's father, Dan, for advice, which he graciously provided. So I went back to Dan again tonight in preparation, and he told me this: "Don't be nervous, people's expectations are low." So end earlier than expected. Justin and I first met as teammates playing summer AAU basketball here in Cincinnati when we were both 16 years old. His basketball talent was undeniable, but what immediately struck me was how humbly he carried himself. As we became better friends over the years, I learned that Justin's character was built on a foundation of his faith in God, modesty, integrity, and treating everyone with respect. These values never changed as he started at Xavier and then overseas. It's hard to keep count of all the encounters I've had with people who ask me privately after spending time with Justin, is he really as genuine as he seems? Sadly, it doesn't happen too often that a great athlete is an even better person, but that's exactly what Justin is. Xavier had the very good fortune of Justin selecting it as his university, and now they have the continued good fortune of him representing them as what a Hall of Famer should be. I know I speak for your family and friends that we couldn't be prouder of the man you are today and the well-deserved honor you received tonight. Please welcome Justin Doellman.
Thank you, Joe. Before I get started, I just want to thank Tom Iser and the committee for making tonight a reality for all of us. And to the other inductees, congratulations on what you were able to accomplish at Xavier. I am truly proud to be a part of this class. I also want to thank many of you that are here tonight. You guys make Xavier what it is. You make it a family and a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and it's something that I'm really proud to be a part of. Standing up here in front of you in this very moment is surreal. I am honored, I'm humbled, and I'm grateful to be a part of the XU family. Growing up in a small town in northern Kentucky, never did I think that a day like this would come. I was just a snotty-nosed kid who all I wanted to do was play basketball. And when Xavier started recruiting me, my eyes opened wide and I was in shock. I was like, wow, a great university wants me to play basketball and pay for my education. And that's truly all I wanted. I wanted to get an education and walk out the door and hopefully get a decent job. But afterward, it blossomed into a career I couldn't even imagine. But my journey to get here, I didn't do alone. First, I want to thank the Lord above. He's been in my corner from day one, and he's helped me get through some uncertain times and helped me persevere. And I want to thank my parents, Pam and Dan. Everything that I've done, it wouldn't be possible without you guys. You all ran me all over the tri-state and got me where I needed to be. Mom, we weren't always on time, but you got me there. Dad, thank you for coaching me up and expecting more of me, expecting better. You knew when to sit back, and you definitely knew when to crack me upside the head and get me back in line. But more importantly, you raised all of us to treat others with respect and with humility, and I thank you both. And Meredith, you were the best decision I've ever made. I heard time and time again that girls would be a distraction. They were right. But I couldn't hold out forever. You believe in me on so many different levels, which made following my dreams that much more obtainable. I was able to go on the road so many different times and only focus on basketball because I knew everything at home would be taken care of. So I thank you. Together we have two amazing, rambunctious children, my daughter Maya and my son Braden. I hope I have inspired you to continue to make the Dolman name proud and to follow your dreams. And don't be afraid to fail, just follow your heart. And I have so many coaches that I need to thank, but I'll just name a few. A couple of those guys are here tonight, Nimi and Dave Oddie, who was unable to make it, and then Mike Price, who also couldn't make it tonight. He was coaching. But Mike Price took the time to coach young kids around the tri-state and help us compete at the highest level. He opened so many different doors with exposure to tournaments and helped get so many of us scholarships to continue to play the game that we love. I also want to thank Thad Mott and Sean Miller for giving me the opportunity to play at this wonderful university. They took a chance on a skinny kid from Union, Kentucky and fulfilled his dreams to play college basketball. And Coach Miller taught me more about mental toughness than I could ever imagine. He even challenged it from time to time in a huddle, either face-to-face or from a sideline, but he was always heard, and I respect and love his intensity. And as I was writing my speech, a story came to mind that I'll share with you. We were on the road, and I can't remember what team we were playing, but we lost momentum, and so he called a timeout, which a typical great coach would do. And as we're walking over the sideline, he's just berating us. I mean, giving it to us, bloodshot red face, veins popping out, the whole deal. And as he's going down the line of the 5 guys that were on the court, he finally gets to B.J. Raymond, which is off to my right. And all of a sudden, I see a chunk of spit just fly across and hit B.J. right in the face. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what's B.J. going to do? Is he going to wipe it off as he's getting yelled at, or leave it on there? And sure enough, he left it on there until we walked out of that huddle. But that's what I love about Coach Miller, his intensity, and he'll always be a great role model to me. I also want to thank my teammates for stepping onto the court with me day in and day out. There's quite a few of my high school teammates here tonight, and I just thank you for challenging me back in the day and making me better. Lastly, I want to thank Michael Mulcahy. He was our athletic trainer here, and he went above and beyond, working so many hours before and after practice to keep us on the court. In one specific moment, I went down with an ankle injury. I think it was against Charlotte my senior year, and it was the nastiest I've ever had. And I should have been out weeks, maybe even a month or 2. But he worked his magic and put in the time and got me back out on the court 3 days later. And there was one more instance where I got injured at the beginning of my professional career. I tore my meniscus. And so I decided to fly home from France at the time and to have Dr. Berger do my surgery. And I called Mike up and I was asking for his recommendation on who could do the rehab. And he goes, well, why not me? I was like, well, because you have a whole program to care for. But he volunteered and didn't expect anything, and I jumped all over it to have him do my rehab. And he got me back out there. And so for that, I owe him basically most of my 12-year career to get me healthy again. And this is just an example of going above the call of duty of what X is to me. And during my time here, there was countless examples from Sister Rose to professors to my peers that were always willing to extend a helping hand because they expect the most of you and expect you to be successful. And not just for athletes, but for everyone. And there was and is a badge of pride that we wear here at Xavier that expects everyone to do their best. And I am proud to be a Musketeer. And I'll close with this. I don't have enough time to thank everyone individually. When I think about all the people who have touched my life and helped me along over the years, it's overwhelming. But you know who you are, and I'm humbled to be able to stand up here in front of all of you tonight and represent them. You know you are a part of the molding that helped me get me here, and I thank you all for sharing this honor with me tonight.
Well, congratulations, Justin. Another great job. Our next inductee will be Scott Gordon, class of 1989. Mr. Gordon's inductor is his brother Bill, who played baseball with him at Xavier. Please give him a warm welcome.
Okay. Usually it takes me more than at least 3 weeks to prepare an impromptu speech. So I'm just going to say, I was going to wing it 80s style, but then I remembered the commission's going to be here. So I didn't think that was going to be a good idea. So what an honor it is to be asked to introduce this newest inductee to the 2020 Hall of Fame here at Xavier University. Even a greater honor was the ability to play alongside him. Speaking of playing alongside him, I need to tell you a little bit about that team in the 80s. We're a group of misfits, to say the least, multi-sport athletes joined together here at Xavier University. Not only did we hold the wins record for nearly 25 years, I'm guessing they play more games now. We had an undefeated intramural basketball team for 4 years and a flag football team. One of the greatest accomplishments maybe of that team, though, is when the Channel 9 News wanted to put us on news for our internationally famous bobsled racing team during the rain delay. We might have been a loose bunch. On the field, LB, he was the anchor of our pitching staff. Like I said in the accolades, he holds records for closes, strikeouts. Then as he got a little bit older, he started completing 10 games. Not only that on the mound, but he was also the guy right in the heart of our lineup. As a freshman, he was batting third. That's kind of unheard of in the sport. You can say LB, no disrespect, guys, but he's the Byron Larkin of Xavier baseball. The greatest honor of them all, though, I'd have to say, is that I get to call him my little brother. Your newest member of the 2020 Hall of Fame, LB, Scott Gordon. Love you, brother.
Thanks, Chili. First, I'd like to say it is an honor to be part of the 2020 class of the Athletic Hall of Fame. That was my number, was number 20. 2025 would have been okay too, because 25 is Chili's number. And looking around, it's awesome to see all the people that came out, and I very much appreciate it. My family, okay, you guys had to be here. That doesn't really count. But so many of the teammates and my high school coach, the godfather of amateur baseball, Kenny Reed, who I coached with at Loveland for a while, one of the other best head coaches, and his family, and a lot of my families. Now, there's one person that is here that I'm not going to say thanks for coming, and that's Nate Nimi. So Dolman, that was his high school coach, right? Well, Nate was my childhood best friend, all right? So I got to tell you, when I found out, Greg Christopher calls me up a couple months before that it's released, and he says, hey, Scott, it's an honor to let you know that you're going to be inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame. I was like, oh, my God, I'm humbled, I'm honored, that's great. He's like, yeah, but you can't tell anybody. You got to wait until it gets announced, until I get to tell everybody. And some of them are off in Europe playing, and some of them are still playing soccer, and right? So he says, just keep it quiet until it gets announced. I was like, okay. Well, the next day, my buddy Nate from high school comes to my restaurant, and we're sitting down having lunch. I was like, I can tell Nate. I mean, that's my buddy. So it's like, hey, Nate, guess what? I'm going to be inducted into Xavier's Hall of Fame. And he's like, oh, that's great. Congratulations. He's like, oh, okay, cool. And then 2 months later, when it gets announced, he calls me up. He's so excited. Oh, my God, Scott, did you see Justin Doellman's getting inducted? I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there watching and everything. It's like, you're not here for me. You're here for Justin. So to everybody else, thank you very much for coming. So back in the day, like Bill said, in the 80s, because we were playing in the 80s, and I'm not going to say that it was old school. I mean, we wore helmets, and we didn't have to leave our gloves out in the field like our dad did, but we did share bats, and we chewed tobacco, and and the cell phone was not invented yet. So there were no cameras anywhere, which is probably a really good thing. Like, to say that we were a bunch of loose cannons, that's coming from the head cannon right there. You know, so things were different back then, but a lot of it was the same too. You know, we had our girlfriends that came to the games, sitting in those concrete bleachers at Hayden Field, you know, watching the game. And by watching the game, I mean doing their homework and getting a tan. I guarantee Jamie couldn't tell you who won the game afterwards, unless I was in a bad mood. And then she's like, okay, I'll give you 20 minutes before I say anything, which we're coming up on our 30th wedding anniversary next month. So because there were no cameras or no cell phones, what we have is our memories. And a lot of those teammates are here today, and a lot of good memories come back. You know, one of them was, you know, on a trip down to Florida for spring training, because playing up in Cincinnati, playing baseball in Cincinnati in February, not so fun. So we got a chance to go down to Florida. Now, we had to drive, and when I was a junior and senior, I had to drive. But down there one year, there was one memory of a bicycle that just came out of the blue. We're in a van, team van, going down. We had a day off, and we're in this van. We're going down there, and everybody's drinking. Not me, because I wasn't old enough, right? So, you know, and I was a rule follower, but everybody else was. I know Sister Roseanne doesn't want to hear about that, but it's true. So we're down there. We got our day off. We're going to the beach. We're just having a blast, and again, I'm the only one that's, you know, and I open the door, and all of a sudden this bicycle comes out of nowhere and smashes right into the van. It's like, close the door, and it's like, he's okay. He was okay. All right, go. I mean, his bicycle was definitely not okay, but he was okay. I mean, it's, you know, thankfully there weren't any cameras or cell phones that could document any of that. The next year, again, down in Florida, and this seems to be a theme about bad decisions in Florida, we're at the hotel around the pool, and our team captain thought it would be a good idea to lead calisthenics. Not in uniform, if you guys recall that. Again, a really good thing there's no cameras with that one. Anybody that's been a part of the baseball program has probably heard tales and lore about treasure that's buried underneath pitcher's mound. And I'll tell you, it's true. There is treasure that's buried underneath pitcher's mound at Xavier's baseball field. My brother and I and a couple other guys donated a case of beer one time and thought it would be a great idea to put it underneath pitcher's mound. Some crazy stuff we do in college, right? Bill already mentioned the bobsled team, so we did have a lot of fun off the field. We had a lot of fun on the field too, and one of the things was the bobsled team, and that was a rain delay tactic. We, you know, during a rain delay and everybody's sitting around, well, this bunch of loose cannons that we thought, man, we're not going to just sit here, so we would run out and slide in the puddles, and it was like, okay, it really grew into this organized bobsled team. Not just one, we had two teams. We had the U.S. team, and we had whoever the U.S. was going against. And I was the brakeman for the U.S. team, so I was very, really didn't have a very important job on it. Goody and Mike Roberts had the tough jobs. But we'd also do a phantom infield. And so those of you baseball people that are out here, everybody that played Little League baseball or anything, you know, before the game, you're taking infield. Coaches hitting ground balls, hitting fly balls, the outfielders, you're getting loose, you're getting ready for the game. The bigger the game, the stupider things we did. And so for a conference championship game, we decided let's do a phantom infield. So, you know, the commish, my father, who is the hitting coach that's out there, he goes out there and he doesn't have a baseball. He's just pretending to hit ground balls, and we're pretending to field them, and we're pretending to throw them. And about halfway through, the other team's looking around thinking, what the hell's the matter with these guys? But it seemed to work because, again, we held the wins record for a number of years. So those kind of things kept us loose, kept things going. And I will say that in the 4 years I was here, we beat UC every game. So my favorite memory of a UC game was, so again, playing baseball in the spring in Cincinnati is not always great. So with the rain and everything, it was supposed to be their home game, and their field was rained out. It was underwater. Our field was playable because Larry would not allow us not to have it playable. So our game's playable. So we're playing at X, but it's their home game. So it's kind of weird. Which that means they had to provide all the baseballs. So, and out there, foul balls go back in the woods, and you lose a lot of baseballs, which means we gain a lot of baseballs for batting practice. But so we were winning by a run or two, and it's late innings, and I get brought in to close the game out. I come in, get 2 quick outs, and then the next guy's fouling a couple balls off, and they're throwing balls in, foul a couple balls off. And then their coach, Coach Schmidt, who was not a crowd favorite by anyone, he tosses a ball like he's never thrown a ball before in his life, throws it out there, and it barely gets to the foul line. And so I'm on the mound, and I walk over and I pick up this baseball. It's still in the wrapper. I look at the ball. I look at the wrapper. I look at him. And I fire it back in their dugout. And it rattles off the bat rack and goes all over the place. And the reason why I tell that story, one, because it's funny, but no one on their team did a thing. Not one single player on UC's team cared that I threw that ball at their coach. If that would have happened to us, it would have been a brawl. I mean, it would have been bad. So to say we had a unique team is an understatement. Between Coach Redwine, the commish, but in our team, I mean, we had some bashers like Jeff R. and Danny Fraley, who hit the ball a country mile. We had some great arms like Goody, and I'll throw myself in there too. But of all, the best teammate that we had is my brother Chili. For many reasons, not just because he was fast and he would steal bases and he had a great outfielder, but just as a teammate. I can remember growing up as a little kid, playing baseball for the first time. Again, I'm the little brother, and all I want to do is be good enough to play on his team. But that also meant be good enough to play on my dad's team because he always coached his team. Not that I'm bitter. Not at all. But as a little kid, I would wear my uniform to get ready to go to bed. And by uniform, I mean my spikes and everything. And I would get in trouble, but again, I was little, so I didn't know better. I mean, I grew out of it by college. So having Chili as a teammate made a whole things better. Like, all right, so I'm being inducted as a representative of our team, and I was a really good hitter, and I also had a good arm, right? I was not a defensive master, like right? So they would try to hide me in the outfield, or try to hide me at first base, or have me DH. But when I was in the outfield, I had Bill in center field. So it was like, hey, LB, I got this. Any fly ball, he'd run over, he'd catch it. It was, kind of made life a little bit easy. Every once in a while, that didn't work out. Like game against Notre Dame, line drive, straight over my head. I turn around, I'm sprinting towards it, got my eye on the ball, and you hear from the center fielder, you got room, you got room, you got room. Bam! You're out of room. So, I don't know, maybe he wasn't the best teammate. I don't know, but now I'm starting to think things a little differently. One of the funnest parts of the game that we had in having Chili as a teammate, all grown up through high school, through college, and summer ball. If we come in a close game, and I'd come in to close a game, with 2 outs and 2 strikes, you would hear out of center field, I want to see it. I want to see it. And that was Chili's way of saying, okay. So when I was on the mound, and you would just show the other team what's coming. Like, this is the sign for a fastball. He's like, okay, here it comes. Try to hit it. And Chili would yell, "I want to see it." So I'm like, "Okay." So I say, "Here it comes." And as soon as I start my windup, he's running off the field. He's like, "All right, LB's got this. Game's over." Runs off. I don't think it ever failed. Every time that it was called. So I do say that when we played, things were different. But one thing remains the same, and that is that we are all proud to be part of this Muskie family that we are all a part of. And I want to echo that sentiment. So thank you very much.
Congratulations, Scott. Our last inductee tonight will be Michael Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins' inductor is Dr. David Hellkamp, longtime Xavier professor and former NCAA faculty rep. Please give Dr. Hellkamp a warm welcome.
Thank you, Joe. My role is to be the straight man. Before I introduce Michael Hawkins, I would like to also congratulate all the members of the 2020 inductees into the Xavier Athletic Hall of Fame. In my long career at Xavier, Michael Hawkins was one of those students who had a great impact on me. But it was not just me who he influenced, but my entire family. It began when my son Jamie, who's here tonight, and Mike started their freshman year together, rooming close to each other in the dorms. They became very good, lasting friends. During many holiday breaks, when basketball schedules and practices would not make it easy for many players to go home, Mike and some of his teammates would come to the house to celebrate meals and to relax with our family. I got to know Mike personally as a very considerate and dedicated young man, not just to basketball, but to his friends, teammates, and to his academic responsibilities. His warm personality and great sense of humor and engagement was contagious. When he was a student, I was struck by his solid goals of wanting a great education, to graduate, and also to play professionally. Along those lines, I remember his dad telling me the story how Mike told him right after a grade school basketball game that he, Mike, was going to play in the NBA. His dad told me he didn't know how to respond to that because on the one hand, he wanted to support him, but on the other hand, he knew the probabilities of being able to do that. By the way, this was also a time when his dad also told me Mike's outstanding skills were also as a running back in football. Mike just seemed to know, of course, that all three goals he was going to achieve, which he did and achieved even more goals that he had. My wife, Sue, and I then got to know his parents, Steve and Barb Hawkins, and we knew immediately where Mike's strong core values originated. I'm sure his parents and all his family members are very proud of Mike's accomplishments. There are 12 members of his family and in-laws here tonight, along with his high school basketball coach. Will you all stand for a minute just to be recognized? Others have talked about Mike's basketball successes, but I want to say how proud I am not only of his athletic success, which we are celebrating tonight, but also his success as a past student, a man, a husband, a father, and a good friend to my family. What you may not know is Mike not only works hard and with devotion in caring for his own family, but has spent time in helping many less fortunate kids not only learn basketball skills, but coping skills to succeed in life, especially learning the skills to get into college. He also coaches AAU basketball teams while attending as many basketball games of his oldest two sons. We watched his oldest son, Nigel, last evening on TV at the house play point guard for Texas El Paso against SMU. Mike's second oldest son, a sophomore in high school, has a game tomorrow, so neither of those two sons are here tonight. But Mike's oldest son, Nigel, has another game tomorrow night, and his parents already told us we're coming to the house. We're all going to watch that game after the Xavier game. Many of Mike's activities are his way of giving back to the community in and around Houston, Texas, where many of his family reside. Through these contributions and others, Mike meets one of the central missions of Xavier and the Jesuits' mission, being a man for others. Help me welcome back to Xavier for this very distinguished recognition, his induction into the Xavier Athletic Hall of Fame 2020, Michael, and as you may remember, many of you, Hawk Time Hawkins.
Good evening. Giving praise, honor, God, glory to God. Congratulations to inductees. All right. As my mom and Dr. Hellkamp said earlier, it's good to be seen. All right. It's good to be seen. All right. Well, I'd just like to share my journey starting in Canton, Ohio, all the way here to Xavier. It's been an incredible, incredible journey. It really has, and there's been so many people that was here to support me, even though they didn't even know me, right here in the Xavier family. And I'd like to first start off with my own family, mom and dad and brothers and son and my wife. The support system that I got growing up, it was beyond normal. I mean, if my mom and dad weren't there, my Aunt Roby was there. If they weren't there, there was someone else. There was always there someone to support me, no matter what I was doing. And Dad, we're going over to Greece. Okay, let's go, son. Mom, we're going over to Greece. Let's go. All right, they was always ready to go wherever I went. Mom, Dad, we're playing the moon next week. They're ready. They're ready to go. That's what type of support system that I had. Okay, all right, and it's been phenomenal, and I thank you. I love you. Okay, and starting off with my my high school coaches here, it's amazing. When I was growing up, 7th, 8th grade, I always went to the park to play with the older men, and my coach was one of them. And he would pick me because other guys wouldn't pick me. And that's how I really got to know the game and learn the game. I watched him coach. And when it came time to choose a college, he went to Cincinnati, y'all. But you know the amazing thing, I did not get any pressure about Cincinnati. I think he really wanted the best for what was for me, and I appreciate that. And came along here to Sister Roseanne Fleming. She doesn't know how much impact she had on my life. I believe that she wanted me to graduate more than my parents. And she really didn't know that I was the first out of 124 grandchildren to graduate from college first. And I thank you. Thank you. And then we had Skip Prosser, who had such an impact on my life. You know, I cried when he left because he recruited me. But when he came back, he changed my career. He changed my life. Because in practice, literally, he gave me the basketball and said, here is your team. And that responsibility that he gave me at that time, I took it on. I ran with it. And my teammates, we ran with it that season. It was an incredible run. It was an incredible run, right, guys? And it was amazing. And then there was alumni that just took me in like I was back home in Canton, Ohio. Dr. Hellkamp and his family, Ed Heyman and his family, so many dinners and talks. I thank you for being that extension. The Hawk Time crew, they supported me from my freshman year. They cheered for me every game. They met with me after every game, whether it was 13 points or it was 13 turnovers. They were there, and I thank you. I thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I saw Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan gave me my first job ever, and I appreciate it because I needed it. And Mr. Seamers, oh my goodness. Mr. Seamers is such a good person, was such a good person. He gave my brother his first loan to his house. It was incredible, and I thanked him for that because people usually don't do that. It was incredible. And we got Mr. Cohelp. Let me tell you about Mr. Cohelp. After I finished playing, 12 years later, gave him a call. Mr. Cohelp, he picks up the phone, y'all. He picks up the phone. He's running a major multi-billion-dollar corporation. He picks up the phone, asked me how I'm doing and what he can do for me. I told him I was down in Houston, looking for a job. All right. So he gave me the number, called the guy next day, set up a meeting, went through the interview, and they didn't have any positions. And I had put in another application for another job with the competition. 3 years later, Mr. Cohelp bought that company. But it was amazing. It was amazing that the people that I have experienced through here at Xavier and the impact they had on my life. Probably the most important alumni, 1996 class, Melissa Beasley. She comes down to Houston, Texas, and she drags my wife. She drags my wife down, and we hit it off right from the start. And Rish, I love you with all my heart. All right. Even though she's an Indiana Hoosier and bleeds red, my better half bleeds red. The other half bleeds blue for Xavier. And the one thing, in conclusion, I would like to ask for all my children, I have 4 kids, I just pray that when they go off to college, that they run into Xavier people at their college. And that is my wish. All right, thank you for coming out this evening. Thank you for being Xavier alumni and being who you are. I thank you. I love you. Have a good evening.
Congratulations, Michael, and thank you again to all the inductees and their families. Please recognize Katie, Justin, Scott, Nick, and Michael with another round of applause. Please allow me to a couple of special thank yous at this point to Marcia Burton, Cindy Meyer, Dee Seymour, Ryan Toole, Tom Iser, and Brian Hicks, who helped coordinate this event. This event never disappoints. It's always a wonderful night, extremely wonderful night. All the speeches, I have to tell you, were just awesome. You're amazing on the field. You were amazing here tonight. Thank you very much for a great night. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We hope that you enjoyed tonight's program, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the men's basketball game. Tip-off will be at 2 p.m., and we will recognize tonight's honorees during a halftime ceremony. Please have a good evening. Good night, everyone.